Well, hello there, Meow Mentors. It's Cat Lady Justin. This is the Kitty Boss, where we pick, pamper, and protect your practically perfect pussycat for a lifetime of unconditional love. This month, we have a really fun catch-up with Dr. Rachel Geller because there's another theme to this month. Not so much of a bullet point list like last month, which was really fun too, but this month is Pride Month. So we're going to focus on that question of whether cats can be LGBT. Can my cat be a lesbian, for example, or are there gay cats? I don't know. I think the answer is pretty much no, but we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it, and we'll have fun doing it. It's also Black History Month, which is a very meaningful month, but it's also meaningful for cats because where do you think cats have their origin? Our favorite animal has their origin over there. So we're going to have fun talking about it, keep it lighthearted and all of that. And we'll also talk about a few other things. And I have a surprise to share with you and a really cool shout out to give today because I met someone in town and we'll be shouting out at that. So, but without further ado, I want to introduce our regular co-host and most special guest, Dr. Rachel Geller, one of the greatest cat behaviorists in the world, who is here with us from the Boston, Massachusetts area, somewhere around there on the eastern coast of the United States. And so we just absolutely love doing this every single month. And it is the month of June as we're recording this. But of course, people might be listening to this in another month, and that's okay because it's evergreen. It is like Barbra Streisand, evergreen. It is something that is always really good. And, Dr. Rachel Geller is like Tina Turner. She is simply the best. And that's an homage to one of my favorites. Tina Turner passed away this month. And sadly, also just yesterday, the Iron Sheik passed away. That's very sad news as well for anybody who happens to be a wrestling fan. He's one of the legends in the wrestling business. So anyway, back to happy matters. Dr. Rachel Geller, great to see you again. Welcome to the show.
Great to be here.
Oh, before we get into any serious business, I wanted to say I was in town today and I couldn't resist because I spotted in the window of a little shop these two little very cute items, which you can see if I hold them near my face. A little cat and a little cat with a mouse and a shovel there. So at that shop, I met some very lovely people, Heather and Ashling. And if you're tuning in, here's a shout out to Heather and Ashling. I hope you're tuning in, or if you're listening later, this is your shout out from Beeston in the Nottingham area in England, in the United Kingdom, over here across the pond, as we say. So it's really cool. So we have also one of your biggest fans, Michael. Hey guys, just perping in to say hello. Have a awesome day. Michael also has a few health challenges, is recovering from some visits to the medical area, and so we're very grateful that you took the time to join us today because that's a great effort. Great to see you, Michael. So anyway, how do you like my little statuettes? This one is from Leslie Ann Ivory Katz. She's an artist. And then this one is just it's nothing special, but it's made in China. But it's just a nice little thing. I like them.
From my background, I believe that one can never have too many cat tchotchkes, so I love them.
No, I agree. You can't. I blur the background, but I have a cat magnet back there. So I obviously I'm wearing a cat T-shirt today that says Cat Lord, and of course we shouted out to our cat friends Ashling and Heather, who sold me these beautiful little items and gave me a really good deal on them too. So I didn't pay a lot. But we have some special themes this month. This month is June, and some people say, should we really dedicate only 1 month out of the year for these things, or should these things really be just a part of our culture, society, our history, rather just 1 month and then the rest of the year forget about it? So I get that, and so I respect that viewpoint. I do think there is a lot of validity in it, that it's not why should we focus on one? Okay, but that's the theme this month. So I thought, let's make it fun. Let's not worry about the serious side of things, because that's not the point of this particular show. We certainly advocate elsewhere and in our other lives. We're very strong advocates for the rights of people. However, in this show, let's have fun. So it's Pride Month. right? So it's Pride Month. So Pride can be LGBTQIA plus. I mean, there's 100 little. I mean, there's no end to the acronyms you could add onto there. But so let's not all worry about that and the correctness of how we term it. Let's just use the term for short, LGBT, or and all of that. So the question I actually posed on the social media as a poll for fun again is whether cats can be LGBT. Like, can my Emily and Charlotte be lesbian, or can a cat be a gay cat? Certainly, it'd be weird to have a trans cat if you want to spend the money doing that at the vet. I don't know a vet that would actually be willing to do that, but it's an interesting question. Is that possible? Because it's not unheard of in nature, in the animal kingdom, to have homosexuality in the animal kingdom. But is that something that's possible in our domestic feline cats, in our house cats?
Yeah, it's an interesting
Rachel?
question. Yeah, I mean, let's just stick to mammals because you're right. I mean, in the animal kingdom, there are definitely animals that can have, both sexes. But if we think about cats, we're thinking about mammals. I mean, it's an interesting question because most of us usually spay and neuter our cats. So right off the bat, we're usually kind of dealing with cats who don't have those male hormones or female hormones coursing through their body. But having said that, sex and gender are two different things. And gender is really a social construct. And gender is really a way that humans, view themselves and view each other. So if it's a human perception, you could make the argument that cats don't really have gender. They don't look at themselves the same way as humans do. And they don't assign each other, a gender based on how they look. Cats act out of their instincts and cats act based on their biology. But having said that, I think as humans, we do project gender onto our cats. I mean, I have a male cat, and I'm always saying things like, what a handsome boy, what a good boy. And I have a female cat, and I'm always saying, she's such a pretty girl, what a lovely little girl. So I definitely use gender infused vocabulary when I, as a human, am talking about my cats. Whether or not that matters to them, who knows? Who's to say, right? But I will
Mm-hmm.
say, as a cat owner, and your audience, and you can weigh in on this, I do get annoyed if somebody misgenders my cat. So if somebody calls my boy cat a girl, I correct them, and the same the other
Yeah.
way around. So we don't know if gender identity really does matter to our cats because, it is a human construct, but it matters to us. It matters to the cat
Yeah.
owners, right? So, if there is a cat owner out there who believes or, wants their cat to identify a certain way, who are we to argue? And I will
Yeah.
say that I've had clients where they thought the cat was a boy, so they gave the cat
Mm-hmm.
a boy's name, and then they found out later, oopsie, the cat's a girl, but they kept the boy's
Yeah.
name. So there's scenarios like that too.
I have somebody I know with a scenario like that. It's a friend of my partner's actually that had a cat, and they gave it a name and the whole show, and then later they found out they named it the wrong. It was I forget whether it was a boy or a girl, and but it was just not the correct name. It
Yeah,
was
yeah,
just not
yeah,
the correct sex for the cat and the gender for the name and all that. But they never changed it. They didn't worry about it. It was no
right.
big deal. It was just kind of a funny little coincidence that happens there. And then of course there's people name their cats cookies and donuts, and that's not really a gendered name anyway. So it's not something to worry about. But it's true. I mean, I refer to my cats as the ladies, the ladies, because they're girl cats, and it's certainly an interesting question because we spay and neuter our cats. So in a way, they're asexual. In a way, they're not either one at that point. I mean, sure, my cats obviously they still have a cooter, or I don't know, whatever you want a fur burger. It's still there, but and then the little sausage is still there on the boy cat, but the things that make it male from our perspective are gone. We
Right.
remove that. And so is it really that important in a sense? Because I mean, they're not going to be howling at night, or they're not going to be, craving, the male attention. The males aren't going to be wandering. So they're not going to do all that behavior. Well, what's interesting is that in the animal kingdom, certainly in reptiles and amphibians, there is quite a lot of hermaphroditism.
Yes.
But that's not exactly what I meant. I meant it's not unheard of for there to be in the mammal animal kingdom, a mammal to have homosexuality in the animal kingdom. That's not something that's unheard of. It's not common, but it does happen. I think in penguins a little bit, a certain extent, and other ones, rats to a certain extent, and it happens in certain situations. And then the other thing that's, our other domestic animals, the dog, which we like, but we don't love. I mean, I don't. And so they'll hump anything. I mean, a dog in general has the reputation, a male dog will go and hump a doll or your leg or whatever. So what do you call that? I mean, what's the word for that? That's like
Right.
pansexual maybe. So is a dog really, but in the cats are not known to do that. So cats don't have that same proclivity to go and just hump anything they see that moves. Male cats don't. So it's an interesting question, and it's true. And I think the bottom line here is it matters probably a bit more to us than it does to them. I personally don't think that Emily cares or Charlotte cares whether I call her a boy or a girl. I don't think she's worried about that. Doesn't bother her to the least. It's something that's more, I like to know that they are ladies, and I buy them, little outfits or whatever that are ladylike outfits. And that's completely a decision that I made, and they could care less probably about all of that stuff.
Yeah,
So
it's definitely a human construct. But it's interesting too when I work at a lot of shelters, and if you have a cat who's very dominant, in that shelter environment, a lot of people will assume that the cat is a male, and there are female cats who absolutely can be the dominant cat within a group of cats. And
like my Emily.
Right. And cats who are very playful or very assertive, again, people will assume it's a male cat. And cats who are quiet and maybe a little more submissive and a little more soft, people will assume it's a female cat. So it is a fascinating subject how we sort of put our own human constructs of identity, of gender identity, and the stereotypes that we have around that onto our cats. So I think it's a fun topic. I think people can kind of think about during the day, how they react to their cats based on what they know their cat's gender is. I think we all do it. And it's a
and
part
I think
of
it's also an opportunity. Let's just say an opportunity to bring up inclusivity and additional love. Because when it comes to our cats, whether it's a boy cat or a girl cat, you love it unconditionally, and they love you. And so So that whole idea of being inclusivity, can we embrace that aspect of it, as opposed to worrying about what category something is in? Categorizing things is a little obsession to file things and figure out what they are and what makes them tick. That's great as an obsession thing. But rather than worry about that, let's just embrace the inclusivity and unconditional love of our feline friends, our cats, and not worry so much about what theirs. Because that to me would be a more powerful message than trying to fight for something, especially when it comes to our cats. So I don't know. I think that's what I'd like to say about that one, and I think that's cool. Now, cats. Is there anything else you wanted to add on that note?
No, I think, like I said, I think, it's kind of a fun topic. It's something to think about. It's something, like you said, we can sort of take how we react and interact with that topic and kind of broaden it to the idea of, acceptance and loving people and our cats for who and what they are. So it's something that's fun in life, but can have a little bit of a lesson too.
Definitely. And somebody says, I love my cats. And as you know, unless you click that little button on Facebook, that link that allows StreamYard to reveal your identity, I can't see who you are. So whoever you are, I love my cats too. And I probably love your cats because I like most cats, and most cats do kind of like me. So that's a fun little thing. Now, cats as a species, now going back to the other topic of the month, As a species, as you know, cats, because we discuss this whenever we talk about hydration and feeding and heat and cold and all that kind of stuff. Cats are desert mammals originally. Today they aren't. Oh, here we go. There it's Andrea. Okay. Andrea, there we go. Andrea Bilbo. Yeah, where is the click? I don't know where it is. Don't worry about it, Andrea. Bilbo, how are you? Anyway, I love your cats too because I see their pictures and they're adorable. I hope I get to meet them one day in person. But anyway, cats have their origin in the desert. They have their origin in the desert in Africa. And as today is, of course, Black History Month, in some countries, of course, I think that's a great way to pivot that serious topic into a fun way, which is to talk about our cats having their origins in Africa. And of course, now it's coming upon summertime, so it's of course a great opportunity to talk about all of that. So as we take a look at, yes, you should meet my babies. We can arrange that. Okay, perfect, Andrea. I look forward to it. I really do. So as today is that month, and it's time to talk about that. Let's talk a little bit about that, the heat and their origins in Africa, and what that means for us today, as they've become domesticated. And of course, there's Norwegian forest cats, which probably couldn't be further away from the African desert. So I think it's a good opportunity to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, cats, like you said, are originally desert animals, and now they're very far away from those roots. I mean, domesticated cats today don't really have a lot of connections anymore to, domestic cats like from 1,000 years ago. So it is. Hi there. That's
Emily.
Emily. Aw, look at that
Don't
face.
misgender her.
I would never. Look at that beautiful face. So,
By the way, Emily's birthday was on the 27th of May, and she turned 12.
Oh, happy birthday.
Happy belated birthday, Emily Bear.
Look how sweet she is. She doesn't look a day over 11. Yeah, so given cats biologies and some of these instincts and needs still remain, even though there's really not a lot of connection anymore, but it is important for us to think about providing that food and water in a way that meets a cat's needs. So many people, I think, don't realize that cats really their need for water is great, and I think a lot of people don't take the steps to make sure that cats are fully hydrated. They really do need access to water all day long. They need access to water that's going to appear fresh and not stagnant. They need access to water that's going to present itself in a way that's not uncomfortable to a cat. I see a lot of people with water bowls that are very high, or they're not that wide, and their whiskers rub against the edges of the bowl. And this can cause an aversion to the water bowl because it's uncomfortable to the cat. So really think in terms of your cat's water needs. Cats today are no longer built to be able to store and kind of keep that water in their systems or their food in the systems, because they've evolved over years to be expecting their food to be presented to them and their water bowl to be presented to them and cleaned. So really think about keeping everything clean, keeping access to the water and the food all of the time, particularly water. And again, if you think about cats in the desert who will find, a body of water, it's going to be open, it's going to be flat. It's not going to be very deep and narrow. So when you think about your water bowl, consider that and have something that's more shallow and long or wide, rather than a little smaller opening and very deep.
Yeah, he is. Their whiskers aren't going to be rubbing up against the side, and that which
Right.
gets irritating to them after a while. I mean, just think of a man with a beard, if if you were going to go kiss that man with a beard, that could irritate your skin. So it's almost like that. But and then there's another, when it gets really hot in the desert, there's sweating. So do cats sweat?
Well, they do. So they don't sweat in the way we think of it. Like there's not going to be sweat dripping down their forehead, but they do sweat through their paws, and they do pant like dogs do. So there are areas on their body where they will sweat from, but you're not going to see obvious moisture. If a person's getting too sweaty, we're going to see. If you see somebody who looks in distress and they're really sweating a lot, you become concerned and suggest that person gets to a cool place. But your cats, you're not going to see visible sweat. So things to look for if your cats are overheating, touch their paw pads because they will sweat through their paw pads, and see if they have their mouths open and they're panting, because that's not a typical way that cats will breathe. Even if a cat exercises a lot, it's not like they're going to pant like a dog might or a human might. So if you see a cat panting, they're trying to cool themselves off. They're having trouble with the heat. So that could be a sign as well.
That
You
could be another
can
sign.
take, a wet towel, not a soaking wet towel, but just a gently damp towel, and rub that along your cat's fur to help your cat stay cool. Not everybody has air conditioning. Not everybody has fans. So you can do things like that to make sure your cat's not getting overheated.
Yeah, and I mean it's a trick. A friend of mine from university who came from a dry desert country like that, when the electricity would go out, they'd sleep with some cold towels in bed.
Yeah.
So we could do that bit with the cat too, if need
Yeah.
be, if you don't
Yeah.
have a cooling system in the house that work for them. And then there's the different sort of predators. So this little picture is obviously not an African scene. This probably looks more like a European scene, but where you have a cat and some pots and a little mouse there. But the mouse is actually a very good representation of the kind of prey that is very attractive to cats from the desert, their time in the desert. So as predators, the felines, the cats would go after that kind of prey. But actually, cat or the larger felines that exist in the desert will go after prey that's much bigger than them. Actually, you'll see a lion go after an antelope or bigger. So how about that aspect of their evolution, and how does that relate to what we have today when we see a cat go after an animal or bird or all? And of course that relates to play as well.
It does. It does. So within a cat's instinct is their instinct is that they're highly reactive to movement. They're highly reactive to motion. And so that fits in with the type of animals that cats like to chase and eat. So that, mice tend to scurry. They tend to run fast. They tend to sort of like change directions. They have herky-jerky motions. They'll run under things. They'll go behind things. And this is within a cat's instinct. These are the things that cause a cat to react and cause a cat's prey drive to be triggered. Same with birds. If you think about birds, sometimes they're up, sometimes they're down. They land here, they fly there. Again, that's the type of movement that triggers a cat's prey drive. So those very things exist today. So if you're playing with your cat and you're just sitting there with a wand going, do, just waving it around. Well, you think, you're moving it around, but you're not moving it in a way that's going to spark your cat's natural prey drive. You need to think about how a mouse would act, how a bug would act, how a bird would act. So, here I am. I'm giving you permission at the end of a long day at work to come home and pretend you're a bug or a bird or a mouse and go crazy and have fun. So, think about all of those different movements so you can really trigger that cat's prey drive, because that's what that cat's looking for. That's what that cat is hardwired to want to chase. They want little small things that they can get between their teeth and get between their paws, and that have that type of quick sort of herky-jerky, unpredictable movement. That's what really entices a cat. So if you think about the prey that they evolved on, we want to simulate that when we're playing with our cat. Otherwise, your cat's just going to look at you with a kind of a blank stare on your face and sort of be like, what are you doing? And not be very interested in what you're presenting to the cat.
Which I'm guilty of doing, to be honest with you. I'm guilty of boring my cats a bit. So that's basically cats as the predator and what kind of prey that stimulate. But cats, of course, having originated and evolved from the desert, were also prey. So
Yes.
what kind of predators have over the years frightened or eaten cats, and how does that relate to our house cats today? And what kind of thing maybe we want to be mindful of doing
Yeah.
around them or
Oh, I
having
love
around
this
them?
question. I love this question. Thank you for asking. So, so you think about things that eat cats, coyotes, fox, bigger animals that also like to chase and stalk and pounce. So cats are interesting creatures because they are both prey and predators. So not only are they hunting for their meals, but they don't want to be hunted as somebody else's meal. So this particularly manifests itself in litter box use and litter box compliance. So when your cat is in the litter box, that is the most vulnerable position that a cat can be in. Your cat is in her most vulnerable position when she is peeing or pooping in that box. So what do we want to do? Because we want our cats to use the litter boxes. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that there is a clear visual field all the way around the box, and think about ample visual warning time and potential for escape. So this is why covered litter boxes are not a great idea for most cats, because the cover of the box completely blocks the visual field. And worse, if there was an opponent or predator or invader, the only means of escape the cat has is directly into that invader's face. So that is not going to be very reassuring for your cat. So she's not going to want to go into a covered box. I know we as human beings think about privacy. That's not what your cat wants. Your cat wants to be able to see all the way around her, and your cat wants to be able to see in enough time if there is an invader or an opponent. Now,
And they don't respect your privacy. Certainly when I'm
yes,
sitting on the
that is
can or
that.
whatever, my cat is looking at me like, what are you doing? Like, that's cool. So I don't feel the need to respect their privacy either. I mean,
That's
I one time
perfect.
was micturating for people who don't know what that means, that's a very fancy word for urinating. I was peeing. And Charlotte was getting so up close to that I thought I almost peed on Charlotte. It's not my fault. She was literally like, and I was like, come on, give me. I didn't know what to do. It's hard to stop midstream. So it was just such a situation like that. So the point is they're not worried about your privacy. So you shouldn't worry about their privacy.
Yes,
It's not like in that movie, was it Meet the Parents, where he walks in and the cat's actually on the toilet. It was trained to go actual. It's like, oh, excuse me, and he shut the door because he was. That was the
no,
Ben Stiller
they
movie.
don't
That was.
want
They
privacy. So
don't care.
they don't care. So when you put that cover on your box, you're you're inviting your cat to be afraid to go in there because they can't see around them. Now, people say to me, well, it's the only cat in the household, or my cat gets along with her, brother or sister. So there again, this is biologically wired in your cat. This is your cat's instinct. So whether she's the only cat in the household, whether there's multi cats in the household, it doesn't matter. These opponents can be real or imagined. So when you're setting up your litter box, consider visual field and ample visual warning time. I know people love to put litter boxes in closets, bathrooms, annexes, basements, because we don't necessarily want to see the litter box in the main area of our household. But from your cat's perspective, these types of locations can cause litter box aversion because they just don't have what they need in terms of clear, clean sight lines, opportunity to escape, and being able to see what's around them. For some cats, even if a litter box is in a corner, they won't go in that box because they perceive those two walls of the corner as blocking their view. So it's very important to look at the litter box locations from your cat's vantage point, and considering, as you said, Justin, that they are prey as well as predators.
Yeah, Unfortunately, a cat is a meal for some animals
Yeah,
and some
and they
people,
know
but
that.
never mind about
Yes.
that. So that's that when it comes to that. Now, there's another little topic that I find quite interesting uh, around mental health and aging and all that. And because it also happens to be National Alzheimer's Awareness Month. So I'm pretty sure that cats can, in advanced ages, suffer from Alzheimer's disease and dementia. So what would you advise on that one? Like, let's say you have an elderly cat. I mean, my cats are considered senior cats now, so there is a risk there that they develop a form of dementia or Alzheimer's. I mean, I hope not. I certainly feed them and take care of them in the utmost way to prevent any kind of health issues, but you never know these kind of things.
Yeah.
So what would you say on that? Before we move that, somebody's commenting on the litter box thing. I had to move my litter boxes into a closet because my dog was munching on the cat poo like potato chips. Yeah. So I used to work for a celebrity in Hollywood who was a director and in television and did stunts and movies and all kinds of amazing things. And one of the things we had in the house was 5 dogs and 2 cats, and there were, I think, 2 or 3, was it 2 or 3? 2 or 3 of the dogs you had to watch like a hawk after the cat went to the litter box, because they would just go into the litter box for dessert. They would pick the brownies right out of there and just go to town on that and clean the litter box. It was insane. I don't totally get what tastes so good to a dog in there. I did read up on it at the time, and apparently what happens is if a dog has any slightest malnutrition, they will go and eat the poo because that has some vitamin, mineral, nutrition content in it that remains after it's been digested. And so they're eating that as a way to increase their digestion. But I don't know why that's more attractive than, say, the grass or other plants outside. What makes the poop so attractive to the dog? I'm not too sure. Because as hungry as I might be, I could be starving. I fasted at one point for, I think, 72 hours. I mean, it never crossed my mind to go and have some dung, as a meal. But that's a dog for you. I don't love dogs. I like them, but I don't love them. So yeah, so we completely hear you. You had to move the litter box, not because of the cat, but because the dog would go for dessert in the litter box and just go to town on it. So
And if
yeah,
your
that's a good point.
particular cat is okay with that, then don't worry about it. So many times when I give this advice, people will say, well, my cat has the box here or there. If you're not having a problem and your cat's okay, don't worry about it. But if you are having a
Oh
little
yeah,
problem,
yeah.
right, those are the things
I
that
mean,
you
all
want
of
to
these things are,
yes. Yeah.
there's nothing in life, especially not in nature, that's 100%.
Nothing.
That's
Nothing.
not a possibility in the physical
Nothing.
universe. That's a
Yes.
theoretical possibility. So, for example, I grew up with a cat named Iggy, and the litter box was in the basement. Uh, Not very, there were wall here, wall there, wall. It was a very enclosed space in the cellar, and
Yeah.
that cat never once went outside the litter box. From the day it came home to the day it died, it never once soiled it outside the litter box.
And it's like those
That's
litter robots. Some cats use those litter robots without a problem. They're fine with it. But there are other cats that, between the fact that they're covered and they make noise, and they might make noise even if you're just walking by them, some of them, there are some cats who freak out. So, like, those are the things that
oh
we'll
yeah.
look at. But yes.
And my Charlotte is one of those sensitive ones. Like, Emily never goes outside the litter box ever. Charlotte is extremely sensitive. She'll go beside the litter box as soon as someone has peed one time in the litter box. Like if I wanted Charlotte to never go outside the litter box, I would have to change the litter 7 days a week, twice a day.
Yeah.
So I can't do that. So unfortunately, I have to clean up some, poo and the lino. And I live with it because and the other litter box, she'd just go in the bathtub or the shower stall or whatever. It's just that's how she is.
Yeah. Yeah.
it's partly to do with her individualism, partly to do with the fact it was taken away from her mother too early. So her mother never got a chance to teach her some nuances like that. She was only 6 weeks old. It was an emergency. So I adopted her, but it was ideal because she should ideally have remained with her mother a little bit longer than that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, so that's my Charlotte. and so,
Yeah,
and
and
so,
right, and just like people, right? We all have varying degrees of, what causes us comfort or discomfort, and we have varying degrees of our survival instincts. I mean, when it comes down to the litter box, it's a survival instinct in a cat. But you think of people, I mean, if personally, if something drops on the floor, I won't eat it. But I know people, if something drops on the floor, they have this 5-second rule. And I know people that they can drop something on a dirty floor, not even in their own home, and they'll eat it. So I wouldn't go bungee jumping. People do, right? So we have all have our own what we can bear in terms of our survival instinct. Cats are the
yeah,
same way.
exactly.
Yeah.
And God bless him. Tom Cruise was skydiving and diving and learn how to hold his breath for 6.5 minutes and all. I mean, I would never do that.
I
That's just
wouldn't
not
either.
something I'm interested in learning, or I admire that. I certainly uh, would be cool if I could do that, but it's not sort of a priority. It's not an interest. It's also I don't have that level of courage. I
Yeah.
thought of that because it's also on the 8th of June it was yesterday or World Oceans Day, so I thought of the ocean and diving and all that. So I think that's a really cool thing, but that's an individualism thing. It's the idea that cats are very individualized.
Yeah.
Any advice we make is not every single cat is exactly the same. We're not talking about a
Right.
robot here. We're talking
Yeah.
about a little breathing entity. So, in fact, I'm going to be speaking again with our friend from Naturally Cats, Julianne, who's a specialist in sort of energy work, chakras. She's writing a book about cat chakras, and that's what we're going to talk about in a couple of weeks. And of course, she knows better than anyone how individual cats are because she connects with cats on a spiritual level, and not just on a physical or emotional level. So I think that's quite an interesting conversation in and of itself. So got into this rabbit hole by asking about Alzheimer's disease and whether
Oh, right,
cats in
right. Yeah.
advanced ages can eventually suffer from that. So I believe the answer to that
Yeah.
is yes, but
Yes.
let's hear from Dr. Rachel, and also perhaps one thing we can do for our elderly cats.
Yeah, so unfortunately, cats can get dementia just like people can. And you might see your cat kind of wandering around, seemingly not remembering where things are in the house. They don't remember where their food is, or they might go out of the box. The best thing for a cat who has dementia is just to really make sure they have access to their basic needs. I did have a cat who had dementia. She had a stroke, and then she had dementia after the stroke. And basically, I would carry her to her food in the morning. Once I brought her to her food, she would eat, but she hadn't remembered where the food used to be. And kind of that thing that we keep in our head. It didn't matter if I put the bowl somewhere else because she still wouldn't remember where the food was. So I would bring her to her food, a couple times a day. I would bring her to a litter box a few times a day. Once she was there, she knew what to do. Her instinct took over, but that memory piece of it, knowing where the food was, how to get to the food, that was gone. So if you do have a cat who has dementia, usually with some minor modifications, the cat can still live a happy life. You might just have to modify and bring the cat to the food, bring the cat to her water, bring the cat to her litter box. And even things like if your cat always slept with you at night and she's not doing that, it might be because of the dementia, or not that she doesn't want to sleep with you. So, get your cat and bring her up to your bed at night so she can still have that routine and that togetherness that she likes.
Yeah, so those are good. That's great advice. If you do have a cat that has Alzheimer's or dementia or any kind of things that elderly cats might suffer from, then just it's still your cat. You can still. It's
Yeah.
not a reason to put them down.
No, no,
Just
no,
bring
no.
them up with you, and you can still
Yeah.
have the cuddles, the fuss. They still have a lot of love to give. They just don't have a lot of memory, and so God bless them. Before we end off the show, I want to remind everyone that Dr. Rachel Geller has a website called Dr. Rachel Cat Behavior. The benefit of people who are listening to this and not watching it, it's DrRachelCatBehavior, spelled the American way, .com, drrachelcatbehavior.com. And her services are for people who are potentially thinking of surrendering their cat, or which is a nice way of saying abandoning their cat. Before you do that, give it a chance, book a session. It's free of charge. Dr. Rachel doesn't charge for her services. It's her service to, I want to say, humanity, felineness, or it's her service to cats and people. So Dr. Rachel Cat Behavior. And for people who are struggling to, afford the little things that go along with cats, All Cats All the Time, All Cats All the Time is a charity, a nonprofit organization that can help people on low income to afford some of the basics of cat stuff. And you can find that through drrachelcatbehavior.com. So I wanted to remind everyone of that very, very important mission, endeavor, and philanthropy that Dr. Rachel provides for everyone. And I almost forgot to describe these, because I forgot for a second that probably most people actually are not watching the show, but are listening to this show either now or at a later date. And so what I was holding up was this little resin or porcelain or something statuette of a beautiful Agnetha on a Russian embroidered rug. Okay, so it's a cat, but it actually appears to me, looks like Maine Coon style, or maybe some kind of Norwegian forest cat, statuette of a beautiful cat with green eyes. Kind of reminded me of Charlotte, but it's just cute, so I like it. And then the other one was this little sort of young cat with big eyes on top of a pot on a grassy knoll, and there's a shovel there, a little mouse on the end of the shovel. So it's almost like a little nature scene with a cat. So that's what I was holding up and showing everyone and shouting out to Heather and Ashling, the two lovely young people who sold me these things at a local shop here in Beeston, Nottingham. So that's the description of, in case you missed it. All right, Dr. Rachel. So is there anything you'd care to say or ask before we end today's show?
Just thank you for having me, Justin. It's always a pleasure. I love these topics, and not that I want to rush the summer, but I will see you in July.
Let's not rush the summer. So this is Cat Lady Justin. It's the kitty boss we pick, pamper, and protect. Your practically perfect pussycat for a lifetime of unconditional love. And this is our monthly catch up with Dr. Rachel Geller. And for the month of June, we talked about lots of really cool things. So stay tuned for the month of July, because we'll have some more awesome things to talk about there, which I will reveal at a later date. So thank you, and we'll see you again real soon.